What if everything you thought you knew about female behavior was just the surface? What if the real truth is darker, deeper, and far more primal than society wants to admit? The truth is more disturbing than you think. A woman can betray everything: her values, her family, even her own children, if she believes the man in front of her is strong enough to control her chaos. This isn't fantasy. It's biology. It's history. Long ago, in ancient wars, when a tribe was defeated, the women didn't run. They adapted. They married the conquerors and gave birth to their children, not because they loved them, but because survival isn't emotional, it's practical. The feminine instinct isn't guided by morals. It's guided by power. She might call you toxic, but if you radiate dominance, if your silence is stronger than her drama, she will submit, not because of love, but because of something deeper, something she can't explain. But you must understand it. Freud wasn't trying to insult women. He was trying to decode them. He believed that behind every emotion, every choice, every romantic game, there is a hidden war. A war between what a woman really wants, what she's been taught to want. She doesn't fully know. Why she's drawn to danger. Why she pulls away when things feel too calm. Why she destroys the man who gives her peace, but surrenders to the one who shakes her sanity. Freud didn't call it confusion. He called it structure at her core. There's the ID, her raw, primal drive. It wants power, protection, and pleasure. It doesn't care about kindness. It doesn't care about morality. It only asks, can he control my chaos? Then there's the superego, the voice of her parents, society. An old pain. It judges her desire. It tells her it's wrong, bad, shameful. Between these two, it's her ego, trying to survive, trying to keep her normal. That's why she acts. Hot and cold, why she wants you, then pushes you away. Why she seems unstable, but always keeps your attention. Because deep inside her mind, love is not peace. Love is power, and if you don't understand this, you'll think her silence is mystery. Her mood swings are affection. Her confusion is innocence. And you'll miss the one truth she'll never say out loud. She doesn't want to feel safe. She wants to feel claimed. Sigmund Freud didn't start out as a rebel. He was a doctor, a man trying to understand why people suffer. But the more he studied the human mind, the more disturbing the truth became, especially about women. Freud didn't trust appearances, not smiles, not polite behavior, not even spoken emotions. What fascinated him was the unconscious, the hidden part of the mind that speaks without words, acts without logic, and wants without permission. And when he studied female desire, not what women say they want, but what actually pulls them, he found a truth that society couldn't handle. It wasn't soft, it wasn't romantic, it wasn't safe, it was raw, primitive, built on survival and submission to power. Freud saw women leave kind men and obsess over men who triggered their shame, their fear, their deep hunger. He noticed their words didn't match their actions. Their guilt didn't stop their choices. He called it repression, a defense system that hides what the mind can't accept. Women were repressing their real desires, and society helped them do it. When Freud tried to reveal the truth, the world pushed back. They mocked him, they censored him, they even hated him, not because he was wrong, but because he was too right, because the truth was unbearable, even for the woman herself. You think she's ignoring you? That her silence means she's not interested. But Freud would say, this isn't about you. This is about her mind protecting itself. Her silence isn't absence. It's a defense system built deep in her unconscious. When her ID, her primal hunger for intimacy, wakes up, it scares her because, deep down, the little girl she once was is still alive, And that girl learned something early in life. Love equals abandonment. Maybe she cried in a room, and no one came. Maybe she reached for her father, and he was emotionally distant. That pain never disappeared. It sank into her unconscious mind. Now, as an adult, that pain hides as control. It tells her, disappear before he gets too close. So when you text her and she doesn't reply, but still watches your stories, stays in your shadow, you didn't lose her interest. You triggered her pain. This is repression in action. Her mind buries the parts of her that longed for you because her superego says, closeness is dangerous. Her ego tries to stay safe. Don't reply, don't feel. Stay in control. She doesn't pull away to hurt you. She pulls away to protect the fragile system that keeps her functioning. You're not just dealing with a woman, you're dealing with her history with memories older than your name in her phone. With nights she cried alone and promised herself, never again. And here's the tragic paradox. The more authentic you are, the more dangerous you feel to her unconscious. You bring warmth, but her nervous system expects cold. You offer presence, but her heart was trained by absence. Don't take her silence personally. Take it as a sign that she's still fighting herself, because when a woman runs without reason, it's not always fear of you, it's fear of what you awaken. She looks at you like she wants you. She smiles longer than she should. Her body language pulls you in. But the moment you move closer, she steps back. She teases. She disappears. She leaves you confused. This isn't immaturity, it's psychological warfare. And Freud saw it long before dating apps existed. He called it the battle between the ID and the superego. The ID wants passion, dominance, surrender. It doesn't care about tradition or shame. The superego whispers guilt. Be a good girl. Don't give in. And so her mind splits. This split becomes manipulation, not always on purpose, but always strategic. As a girl, she learned one thing. Attention equals safety. If she was desirable, she was safe. But true surrender, that was never safe. She's not confused. She's in conflict. And you're just the mirror. Have you ever met a woman who sends mixed signals? She flirts, then pulls back. She makes eye contact, touches your arm, laughs at your jokes, but then suddenly becomes distant. You think she's playing games, but this isn't a game. It's a defense. When she was younger, her natural femininity may have been punished. Maybe someone made her feel ashamed for being attractive or expressive. Now, as an adult, she still wants to feel wanted, but she's scared of being controlled. She uses her body, her energy, her charm not always on purpose, but to feel seen, not to be owned. That's why she shows just enough to attract, but never enough to truly connect. Freud called this reaction formation when someone behaves in the opposite way of how they actually feel to protect themselves. She might want intimacy, but she acts cold. She might feel desire, but she talks about purity and boundaries. Why? Because admitting her true feelings would make her feel unsafe. It would mean losing the illusion of control to you. She seems unpredictable, hot one moment, cold the next. But what's really happening is a quiet war inside her. One part of her wants closeness. Another part is terrified of it. Her ego tries to keep it all together. It tells her, flirt, but don't get attached. Stay in control. Be desired, but don't surrender. And every time you lean in too much, her deeper mind panics and says, run. Here's the truth most men don't hear. If you try to win her over by chasing her, you'll lose something much bigger, your own soul. But if you see the script, if you understand that her actions come from fear, not mystery, you become untouchable. Because a woman can control a man who doubts himself, but she cannot control a man who knows who he is. And that scares her more than anything. You might think she's special, different, unique. You tell yourself she's not like the others. She doesn't need anyone. But what you're feeling isn't attraction. It's scarcity. Your mind is reacting, not to who she is, but to what she represents, the missing love you never fully received. When she pulls away, when she becomes cold or distant, your inner child wakes up. The part of you that once felt unseen and unloved panics. It screams, "Don't lose her. Prove your worth." But that reaction doesn't come from real love. It comes from lack. Maybe your mother gave love inconsistently warm one day, cold the next. Maybe you grew up chasing affection, learning that love had to be earned. So now, when a woman acts distant, your nervous system says, "This feels familiar." And you fall for the trap, not because she's rare, but because her behavior matches an old emotional wound. She doesn't have to say anything. Even her silence speaks loudly. It reminds you of all the times you felt invisible. You don't just want her attention. You want healing. But here's the poison. The less she gives, the more valuable she seems. Not because she's actually rare, but because your brain is wired to associate distance with value. It's a trick of your mind. Freud called this displacement. You're not really chasing her. You're chasing a ghost from your past. You're not drawn to her. You're addicted to the feeling of trying to matter. And here's the thing she knows. Maybe not with words, but she senses the power. The moment she withholds affection, your masculinity wobbles. Your self-worth depends on her reaction. And that's dangerous. No woman should have that much power over your nervous system. As long as you confuse emotional starvation with love, you'll keep returning to women who give you crumbs and make you think it's a feast. You don't become powerful by earning her validation. You become powerful by recognizing the script and refusing to play along. Because real strength begins the moment you stop chasing your childhood through the arms of modern women. She might tell you you're the one. She'll talk about the future, children, marriage, and for a moment, you feel chosen. But then, something shifts. The dream falls apart. She changes her mind. Or worse, blames you for everything she once said she wanted. What just happened? Freud called it projection, when someone pushes their own internal conflict onto someone else. She wasn't lying to you. She was lying to herself. It were just the stage she acted it on. In the beginning, her inner desires were alive. She wanted love, connection, stability. But as those desires got closer to reality, her superego, the inner voice shaped by trauma and fear, started whispering, "You're not ready. You'll leave. You'll get hurt again." That voice created tension inside her. Instead of facing that fear, she projected it onto you. Suddenly, you became the one she couldn't trust. You became the excuse her mind needed to escape the very thing she said she wanted. This is not new. As children, when emotions were too intense, our minds created stories to protect us. Women who experienced emotional abandonment or pressure growing up often fear real commitment, but they still want the illusion of it. They borrow your stability to create a fantasy, then destroy it the moment it becomes real. It's reaction formation again. She tells herself she wants loyalty, marriage, forever. But deep down, she fears what true intimacy demands: vulnerability. So she runs, she self-sabotages. She says, "I was wrong about you." But the truth is she was never clear about herself. And here's where most men break. They take the blame. They try to fix what was never theirs to fix. They beg. They prove. They chase. But you cannot win a war that lives inside her mind. You cannot rescue someone from the lies they need to survive. The wise man doesn't argue with her switch. He sees the script and leaves the theater. Because a woman who uses you to fight her inner war is not building a future. She's building a shield, and that shield is made of you. She mocks you. She questions your masculinity. She calls you cold, arrogant, controlling. She says, greater than I could never be with a man like you. But what she's really saying is, I'm scared to be seen by a man who sees himself. Have you ever met a woman who criticizes you, but still keeps showing up? She argues. Mocks, pulls a Wyatt somehow. She's always around. She says one thing, but her actions say another. This isn't confusion. This is something deeper. It's what Freud called reaction formation. That means when someone hides what they really feel, because the truth is too scary to face, they act the opposite. She doesn't hate you. She hides attraction. She fears surrender. She covers desire with contempt. She attacks the very traits her body secretly craves: strength, mystery, power. But why? Maybe she grew up with a weak father, or maybe a controlling one. Maybe she was taught that liking strong men made her less than, or not feminist enough. Maybe she was told that giving in meant losing power. So, her superego, that voice shaped by society and shame, kicks in. He's toxic. He's dangerous. He's probably a narcissist. It's easier for her to shame her desire than to surrender to it. So she argues. She mocks. She calls you names, but deep down, she hopes her words will kill the part of her that wants to be claimed. And here's the twist. Every time you stay calm, every time you refuse to react, every time you hold your frame, she hates you more. ... But that hatred is mixed with arousal, because your quiet strength is the gravity her chaos secretly wants. And this is where most men get trapped. They start defending themselves. They start explaining. They start apologizing. They try to fix the image she's creating, not realizing that by doing this, they just submitted to her control. But a man who understands projection doesn't react to insults. He listens to what her unconscious is really saying. Greater than, your presence makes me feel something I was trained to hide. And to that, there is only one response: silence, stillness, power. Because when a woman fights for control and deep down wants you to take the lead, you don't argue, you don't chase, you don't beg, you just hold. And in that holding, her mask starts to break. You thought you wanted her, but what if it wasn't about her at all? What if, deep down, you were chasing something else? Not a woman, but a pattern, a feeling, a pain you never resolved. Freud once said, the unconscious mind repeats what it never resolved. That's why we chase the same pain, not because we love to suffer, but because suffering feels familiar. And that's the lie. You weren't chasing love. You were chasing the ghost of an unmet need. The woman who ignores you, who plays hot and cold, who disappears and comes back. She feels real because she reminds you of someone, maybe your mother, who wasn't always there, maybe your father, who is distant and cold. She makes the boy inside you believe, if I can make her love me, I'll finally be enough. But that was never her job, and the real betrayal isn't hers, it's yours. You betrayed yourself the moment you made her the solution to your emptiness. And the worst part, you believed that if you just suffered the right way, you played the role perfectly, you would finally be chosen. But you weren't in love. You were stuck in emotional poverty, in unhealed wounds, in silent hope. You thought, if I can fix her, I'll fix myself. But it keeps breaking you, because no woman can mother a man who refuses to father himself. And that's the truth. The illusion was never about her attention. It was the lie that your worth depended on it. You don't win this game by reacting. You end the game by leaving the arena. The woman who tests, who plays, who pulls away, she's not your enemy. She's your mirror. And your only task is to stop flinching at your own reflection.